The morning began like any other, quiet, slow, the way I preferred it. The rain tapped softly on the window of the cafe where I sat every Friday at 8 a.m. sharp. It was my ritual, my safe space. A moment away from responsibilities, from schedules, and lately, from my husband, Ethan. Ethan had been acting strange for the last 3 weeks. Secretive jumping when his phone buzzed, smiling to himself, leaving the room whenever I walked in. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself marriage goes through phases. I told myself he would open up when ready. I told myself lies. But that morning, everything changed. I was stirring my coffee, lost in thought, when a man I had never seen before approached my table. He was tall, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit, dripping confidence and rainwater. "Mrs. Carter?" he asked, lowering his voice. I blinked. "Yes?" He gave a tight, urgent smile, the kind that didn't feel like a smile at all. "I'm sorry to disturb you, but we need to talk. It's about your husband." My breath caught instantly. Every worry I'd been suppressing slammed back into my chest. I'm sorry, who are you?" I asked, trying to sound calm, but my voice cracked. "My name is Adrian," he said. And Ethan made a huge mistake. He pulled out the chair across from me but didn't sit. "May I?" My heartbeat thudded in my ears. The cafe suddenly felt too small, too warm, too quiet. I nodded hesitantly. Adrian sat, leaned forward, and said 6 words that froze the blood in my veins. "He isn't who you think he is." For a full second I couldn't breathe. "What is that supposed to mean?" I whispered. He glanced around the cafe, ensuring no one was listening, then placed a small black envelope on the table. "Do not open this here. Do not let him see it. And for your own safety, say nothing to him yet." "My safety," I repeated, my voice trembling. "Why would I need safety from my own husband?" He exhaled heavily, like he had been rehearsing this moment and still hated saying the words. "Because your husband has been lying to you since the day you met." My chest tightened. "Lying about what?" He stared at me, his eyes full of something I couldn't decipher. Regret? Fear? Pity? Everything, he whispered. His job, his past, and especially his identity. I felt the world tilt beneath me. "You must be mistaken," I said, but my voice lacked conviction. "Ethan works in finance. He's boring. Predictable. He's—" "Not who he says," Adrian cut in sharply. "And the consequences of that lie are coming." Suddenly, someone inside the cafe shouted a food order, and I flinched. Adrian leaned closer. "You need to leave town today. Take only essentials. Don't confront him. Don't ask questions. I'll contact you when it's safe." Was this real? Was I dreaming? Was this some twisted prank? "Why are you telling me this?" I whispered. Adrian paused. Something flickered across his face, something painful. "Because he should have told you himself," he said quietly. "And because you deserve the truth before everything falls apart." My hands shook as I touched the black envelope. It felt cold, heavy. "Wrong! What's in here?" I asked. "Proof," he said. "But please, open it only when you're alone." I swallowed hard. "If this is some kind of scam, it's not," he said firmly. "And you'll understand soon." He stood abruptly, pulling his coat tight around him. "One more thing," he added, looking down at me with urgency. "Whatever he tells you tonight, whatever excuse he gives, do not believe him." "Why tonight?" I breathed. His jaw clenched. "Because after tonight, nothing will ever be the same." And then he walked out into the rain without another word. I sat there frozen, my coffee untouched, my heart racing like a trapped bird. My hands trembled as I slid the envelope into my purse. Every instinct screamed that this was insane. Yet another part of me, a part I had ignored for weeks, whispered that something about Ethan had changed. I left the cafe and drove home in silence, every streetlight blurring into streaks of gold as rain hit the windshield. When I stepped into the house, Ethan was in the kitchen, humming softly, making coffee like everything was normal. "Hey, babe," he said, smiling. "You're home early." Something inside me cracked. I watched him carefully, the man who kissed my forehead every morning, who laughed at cheesy movies, who held me when I cried. Could he really be hiding something so big, so dangerous, that a stranger warned me to run? His phone buzzed on the counter. He snatched it quickly, too quickly. He didn't know I had seen the message flash across the screen. "We need to talk." "She deserves to know," my stomach dropped. He forced a casual laugh. "Spam text." But the look in his eyes said otherwise. And in that moment I knew. The stranger wasn't lying, Ethan was. I couldn't sleep that night. Ethan lay beside me, breathing calmly, as if the world wasn't collapsing under the weight of secrets I didn't even understand. Every now and then he'd shift and murmur something, but I just stared at the ceiling, clutching the black envelope hidden under my pillow like it was a lifeline. A stranger had told me to run. A stranger had told me my husband wasn't who he claimed to be. Yet here he was, sleeping peacefully, smelling like soap and comfort and everything familiar. But my instincts were screaming. At 2:14 a.m., he jolted awake from a nightmare, gasping, sweating, whispering a name he had never said before. Adrian, no! My blood ran ice cold. He turned, saw me watching, and froze like a guilty child. You okay? He asked quickly. I should be asking you that, I replied quietly. He ran a hand through his hair, avoiding eye contact. Bad dream. Nothing important. Lie. Another one. Earlier that day, his spam text had shown the same name he just whispered in his sleep. He got up, paced the room, then headed for the door. Where are you going? I asked. Can't sleep, he muttered. Going for a drive. A drive. At 2 a.m. another lie. Normally I would have let it go, but not tonight. Not after what Adrian told me. I waited exactly 2 minutes, grabbed my keys, and followed him. He drove faster than usual, weaving through empty streets, checking his mirrors constantly, as if he expected someone to be tailing him. He had no idea that someone was. Me. Finally, he pulled into an abandoned parking lot behind an old warehouse. The place was dark, silent, dripping with danger. My stomach tightened. He got out, walked to the far corner, and stood there, pacing, whispering angrily to himself. I watched from my car, hidden in the shadows. A minute later, another car arrived. A black SUV, my pulse skyrocketed. A man stepped out, tall, built like a security officer, dressed in all black. Ethan rushed to him instantly. I couldn't hear their words, but I saw their faces. Ethan's fear, the stranger's frustration. The man shoved something into Ethan's hands, a folder. Thick-sealed, heavy, my breath caught. Ethan flipped it open. Whatever he saw made him stumble backward, mouth falling open. He started shaking his head violently. No, this can't be happening, he said loudly enough that I barely caught it. They weren't supposed to find out. Find out what? The other man grabbed Ethan by the shoulders, hissing something into his face. Ethan clenched his jaw, nodding reluctantly. Then he pointed at my car. I ducked instantly. Had he seen me? My heart hammered so violently I felt dizzy. The man scanned the area. I held my breath. After a tense moment, he looked away. The two spoke for another minute, then got into their cars and drove in opposite directions. I stayed put until both vehicles vanished. Then I whispered to myself, "Who are you, Ethan?" When I returned home at 4:30 a.m., Ethan was already there, sitting on the couch, elbows on his knees, staring into nothingness. He didn't even look up when I walked in. "Where did you go?" he asked quietly. I hesitated. Couldn't sleep. Took a walk? He nodded slowly. Right. His tone wasn't accusing, it was defeated. Like he knew the lies were starting to crumble. I sat across from him. "Ethan, are you okay?" Silence. Then he said words he had never said in our marriage. I messed up. Bad, my blood turned cold. He rubbed his face roughly, and when he finally looked up, his eyes were bloodshot and full of fear. "I need you to trust me," he whispered. Trust? The word felt foreign between us now. Trust you about what? I asked. He swallowed. Whatever happens today, just know I did everything to protect you. My chest tightened painfully. Protect me from what? He stood up suddenly and grabbed my hands. Hannah, listen. If something happens to me, if someone comes to the house, if I disappear— Ethan, stop, I said, pulling my hands away. What are you talking about? He looked around the room like someone might be watching. Then he leaned in close, voice barely audible. You're going to hear things about me. Terrible things, things that sound impossible or insane. Don't believe them. Don't believe who? Adrian, the man from the parking lot? The person Ethan used to be? I stepped back. You're scaring me. He closed his eyes, breathing shakily. I know, and I'm sorry, but I'm doing everything I can. Ethan, I whispered, my voice trembling. Just tell me the truth. He hesitated. He almost said it. I saw it in his eyes, the war inside him. The fear, the guilt, the desperation, But instead of talking, he kissed my forehead and walked away. "Please," he whispered, "just remember, I love you." When he left for work, if he actually went, I waited exactly 2 minutes before locking every door and window. Then I took the black envelope from under my pillow. My hands trembled so violently I almost dropped it. I sat on the floor, took a deep breath, and opened it. Inside were a photo and a document, a single USB drive, and a letter addressed to me. The photo was Ethan, younger, dressed in a uniform I had never seen, standing with a group of men whose faces were blurred out. He was holding a gun, a military gun. My heart pounded. The document was worse. Ethan Carter, alias. Real name, confidential status. Former intelligence operative case, missing, presumed compromised. My head spun. My husband, the man who worked in finance, was part of an intelligence agency. The letter was handwritten. I forced myself to read. "Hannah, if you are reading this, then Ethan's past has caught up to him. He didn't tell you because he wanted a normal life. But the people he betrayed, they don't forgive. You need to get out before they come for him and you." My breath shattered. A faint buzzing filled the quiet room. I looked down. The USB drive was blinking. My fingers shook as I picked it up. Whatever was inside, I wasn't ready for it, but I plugged it into my laptop anyway. A single video file appeared. I clicked play, and the first frame made me scream. The cafe around us felt too quiet, too still, as if the entire world had paused, waiting for the truth this stranger was about to reveal. I leaned closer. "Tell me who you are," I whispered, "and what mistake my husband made." He looked down at his hands. They were trembling. "My name is Daniel Carter," he finally said, "and I used to work with your husband before he ruined my entire life." My heartbeat stumbled. "Ruined your life?" Daniel gave a hollow laugh, not angry, not bitter, just exhausted. "Yes, and if you don't listen carefully, he's going to ruin yours too." He dragged a hand through his hair. 3 years ago, I was an analyst at Meridian Tech, the company where your husband works. I nodded. My husband, Ethan, always spoke about the place like it was a battlefield. Long hours, ruthless ambition, corporate politics. But he never mentioned a man named Daniel. "I specialized in cybersecurity," Daniel continued. "I found something in the company's system, something I wasn't supposed to see." His voice dipped lower. "And your husband found out I knew." I stiffened. "Ethan? The man who brought me flowers every Friday? The man who read bedtime stories to our son? The man who kissed me goodnight even when we argued?" "What did Ethan do?" I asked. Daniel swallowed hard. "He wasn't always the man you know. He used to be different, quiet, responsible, moral." He paused, until he partnered with the wrong people. My stomach twisted. "What people?" Daniel exhaled shakily. "Meridian Tech's covert investors, the ones who launder money through the company, the ones Ethan helps cover." I stared at him. This couldn't be true. It couldn't. Ethan? My Ethan? He's a financial manager, not a criminal. Daniel looked me straight in the eyes. "Your husband cooks the books, Sarah. He hides transactions worth millions. That's why he travels so much. That's why he comes home late. That's why he gets nervous whenever someone asks questions." I felt cold all over. Daniel kept talking, pouring out words like he'd been carrying them for years. I found encrypted files showing illegal transfers. I confronted Ethan. I held my breath. He begged me not to expose him. He said he was in too deep, that if I talked we would both be dead. My heart lurched. "So you helped him?" Daniel shook his head. I refused. I told him I would report the laundering. There it was, the mistake, the one the stranger warned me about. "That night," Daniel whispered, "someone broke into my apartment." I gasped. "What?" "They destroyed everything, my laptop, my document, even my passport." He swallowed. "They planted evidence, made it look like I was the one stealing money." I felt sick. "And Ethan?" Daniel's voice cracked. "Ethan testified against me." No, he wouldn't. He couldn't. But Daniel kept going. "I went from being an employee to a criminal overnight, fired. Blacklisted, no company would hire me. My wife left. I lost custody of my daughter." His eyes glistened. "I lost everything because I tried to stop your husband." A tear slipped down my cheek. I didn't even notice it fall. I could barely speak. "Why did you come to me? Why now?" Daniel pulled a small envelope from his jacket. "Because you're in danger too." My breath hitched. "Danger?" He nodded. Ethan's partners think you know something. I froze. But I don't know anything. Exactly, Daniel said. But they don't trust anyone connected to him. I clutched the edge of the table. Then why tell me all this? His voice softened. Because Ethan wasn't always bad. He saved my life once. And this, he slid the envelope across the table, is the only way I can repay him. Hands shaking, I opened it. Inside was a USB drive and a photo. The photo made my blood turn to ice. Me standing outside my house, taken from a distance, from behind a tree. Someone had been watching me. I looked up at Daniel, horrified. He nodded grimly. They already started following you. I could barely breathe. Daniel, what's on this drive? His voice trembled. Proof. The real transactions. Ethan's involvement, the investors. Everything, I shook my head. But why give it to me? Daniel leaned forward. His voice was urgent, almost desperate. Because if anything happens to you, this evidence needs to reach the authorities. My heart pounded. Anything happens to me? Daniel's eyes filled with fear. They don't leave loose ends, Sarah. A shiver ran through me. So what do? I whispered. Daniel stood. You run and you don't trust anyone, and not even your husband. He looked at me with a mixture of guilt and sorrow. I'm sorry, Sarah. I should have come sooner. I rose slowly from my seat. Where will you go? Daniel's lips shook. Somewhere they won't find me. But remember this. He leaned in close. Your husband didn't make one mistake. My pulse thumped loudly. He made 3. I blinked. 3? Daniel nodded. The first was joining them. The second was framing me. He paused, swallowing hard. And the third? He looked directly into my eyes. Was dragging you into it. My breath caught. He turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving me alone with a USB drive, and a truth too terrifying to face. I sat frozen in that cafe long after Daniel disappeared. My fingers tightened around the USB drive, a tiny device that could shatter my entire life. I whispered under my breath, Ethan, what have you done? My mind felt like a storm, memories spinning, crashing, rearranging themselves. Late nights, whispered phone calls, hidden documents, locked drawers, trips he never explained, signs I ignored because I loved him, because he was my husband, because I trusted him. Trust. How fragile it suddenly felt. I took a shaky breath and whispered, I need answers. There was only one person who could give them. When I reached home, Ethan's car was already there. Usually the sight of it meant comfort, familiarity, safety. Today, it felt like danger. The moment I stepped inside, Ethan appeared in the hallway. Hey, honey. He stopped. His eyes narrowed slightly, scanning my face. You look pale. Something happened? His tone was gentle, but there was tension beneath it, a vibration. A crack in the mask. I forced a small smile. Just a long day. He stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from my face. You should rest. I'll make dinner. Normally, that would have melted me. But after what I'd learned, every gesture felt rehearsed. Calculated. Too perfect. My throat tightened. Actually, can we talk? Ethan froze for half a second. It was subtle, but I caught it. Of course, he said smoothly, too smoothly. We sat in the living room. He rested his hands on his knees, body relaxed. A man with nothing to hide. Or a man trained to hide everything? I stared at him. Ethan, do you know someone named Daniel Carter? His jaw tightened. A tiny movement, but enough. No. Lie, it hit like a punch. I didn't react. I just tilted my head slightly. Are you sure? He looked me in the eyes. I don't know anyone by that name. Another lie, my stomach twisted. Because, I continued, voice steady, I met him today. Ethan blinked, just once. A slow inhale, a forced exhale. Really, he said. Pretending curiosity, pretending ignorance. Yes, he told me he used to work with you. Ethan's eyes hardened, just for a second. Sarah, I've worked with many people. Maybe he confused me with someone else. My fingers curled into fists. This wasn't the man I married. This was someone else, someone careful, guarded, someone dangerous. I leaned forward slightly. Ethan, are you involved in anything illegal? He laughed, a soft, controlled laugh. What? No. What kind of question is that? I didn't smile. Then why did Daniel say you framed him? Another micro-expression, fear mixed with anger. Ethan stood abruptly. Okay, this has gone far enough. Whoever this man is, he's lying. People get bitter when they lose jobs. They make up stories. You shouldn't be talking to strangers. There the shift. The authoritative tone. The tone of someone accustomed to controlling the narrative. Why were you watching me outside the house? He froze. A long, cold silence filled the room. Finally, he spoke. What did he show you? My breath caught. He didn't deny it. He didn't pretend confusion. He didn't say, what are you talking about? He said, what did he show you? Confirmation. Without meaning to, my hands trembled. A photo, taken from outside. Someone spying on me. Ethan groaned and rubbed his face. Sarah, I can explain. I waited. He didn't speak. Because there was no explanation. Only guilt. His voice lowered to a whisper. I never wanted you involved. I stared at him, throat tight. Involved in what, Ethan? Money laundering? Illegal transfers? Destroying someone's career? He winced. Not denial, not surprise, recognition. Daniel said you ruined his life. Ethan paced the room. Daniel was a good employee. Smart, too smart, I swallowed hard. So you ruined him because he found out what you were doing? He stopped pacing and looked at me with something like pity. You don't understand. I didn't have a choice. I exhaled sharply. There's always a choice. Ethan shook his head. Not when the people above you threaten your family? I froze. They threatened you? He gave a bitter smile. They threatened you. My breath hitched. Me? Ethan stepped closer. His eyes were tired, haunted. Sarah, I didn't get into this willingly. Meridian isn't a company, it's a machine. Once you're inside, you don't get out, not alive. My blood ran cold. And so you lied to me? He flinched. I lied to protect you. I stood slowly, legs shaking. Ethan, did you frame Daniel? He looked down. For the first time, he didn't try to hide. I had to. Those 3 words shattered something inside me. He continued, if I didn't, they would have killed him and come for us. My heart cracked. So you destroyed an innocent man to save yourself. His voice broke. To save you. A tear slid down my cheek. I never asked you to protect me like this. Ethan stepped forward, desperate. Sarah, listen. I stepped back. He froze. His voice dropped to a whisper. You don't trust me anymore. I didn't answer. He didn't need one. Then Ethan said something that made my knees buckle. They know you met Daniel. I stared at him, horrified. What? He nodded slowly. They called me an hour ago. They said you're now a risk category. Risk category, like I was an object. A file, a liability. Ethan, what does that mean? I whispered. His face turned pale. It means they're watching you. Closely. My heartbeat thundered. Are we in danger? Ethan didn't blink. Yes, I pressed my hand to my chest. So what do we do? He looked toward the window, as if expecting someone there. Then he said, pack a bag. I froze. Why? His eyes filled with dread. Because we're leaving tonight. I stared at Ethan as if I had never seen him before. Leaving tonight? My voice trembled. He nodded once, sharp, urgent. Pack only essentials, no electronics except your phone. And turn it off, my pulse hammered. I whispered, are they coming? Ethan didn't answer immediately. He didn't need to. The fear in his eyes told me everything. He grabbed a duffel bag from the hallway closet and started stuffing it with cash, bundles of cash, that I had never seen before. My stomach dropped. Where did you get that? He zipped the bag quickly. Emergency stash. I told you, I've been planning an exit for months. Exit. The word echoed through me like a death sentence. This wasn't a marriage crisis. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was survival. I ran to our bedroom to pack. My hands shook uncontrollably as I threw clothes into a suitcase. Then I froze. The bedroom window. A shadow passed across it, slow, deliberate. My breath hitched. I whispered, Ethan. He ran in immediately. What happened? I pointed with a shaking finger. Someone's outside. He rushed to the window, peeked through the blinds, then cursed under his breath. Damn it, they're early. My heart stopped. Ethan, who's outside? He turned to me, gripping my shoulders. His voice was low, frantic. Sarah, listen carefully. Whatever happens, stay behind me. Do not talk to anyone. And if I say run, you run. My throat closed. Ethan, I'm scared. He pressed his forehead against mine. I know, but I won't let anything happen to you. For a moment I saw my husband again. The real Ethan, the one who loved me. Not the man tangled in shadows. But the moment shattered when someone knocked on the front door. Not gentle, not polite. Hard, heavy, like a warning. Ethan pulled me toward the back stairs. We're going out through the basement. Don't make a sound. We tiptoed downstairs. Another knock, louder, then a voice. Ethan Hale, open the door. My blood turned to ice. The voice was calm, cold, military-like. Ethan whispered without looking back. They were never supposed to find us this fast. I clutched his shirt. Who are they? His answer was a whisper loaded with dread. Internal Enforcement Unit, Meridian's cleanup crew. I gasped. Cleanup? He didn't look at me. They eliminate loose ends, loose ends. That's what we were. We reached the basement, and Ethan shoved open a narrow door behind the shelves. Shortcut to the alley, go. I squeezed through the narrow passage, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. The basement lights flickered as footsteps echoed above. Heavy footsteps, multiple. I whispered, Ethan, hurry. He climbed in behind me, closing the door gently. Then boom! The front door upstairs was kicked open. I screamed silently. Ethan grabbed my hand, pushing me forward. Move, Sarah! We crawled to the other side and slipped into the small alley behind our house. Cold air hit my skin like ice. It was dark, quiet, too quiet. Ethan checked both ends of the alley. Then his phone buzzed. A single message flashed across the screen. They're inside. You have 3 minutes. I covered my mouth, shaking. Ethan? Who sent that? He looked at me with a grim expression. Someone who owes me one. He grabbed my hand and whispered urgently, Run! We sprinted down the alley, our feet pounding on wet pavement. My lungs burned, my legs shook. But fear pushed me forward. A black SUV turned the corner, its headlights off. Ethan pulled me into a side street. They're scanning the area. Keep moving. Another message buzzed his phone. Checkpoint ahead. Don't go north, my voice cracked. Ethan, how far does this go? He didn't slow down. Meridian is everywhere. They don't use police. They use their own people. My stomach twisted. And Daniel? Where is he? Ethan's jaw tightened. On the run, like us. Just then, we heard shouting behind us. They're in the alley! I almost tripped. Ethan grabbed my waist and steadied me. Sarah, listen to me. We can still get out. I have a plan. He guided me through a maze of narrow streets until we reached an abandoned warehouse. Inside, a single light flickered from a desk. On the desk, documents, fake IDs, tickets, cached a whole escape kit. My eyes widened. You prepared all of this? Ethan nodded, panting. I told you. I've been planning to get us out for months. I just didn't know the timeline would collapse this fast. I stared at the documents. One passport had my photo, a name I didn't recognize. You planned to take me away without asking me? Ethan closed his eyes. I planned to save you. That's all I wanted. Suddenly, the warehouse door vibrated with a loud bang. A voice shouted from outside, We know you're in there. Don't make this harder. Ethan grabbed my face gently, eyes burning into mine. Sarah, whatever happens next, remember I love you. Tears blurred my vision. Ethan, what are you going to do? He pressed a cold metal object into my hand. A small device, a remote. If they take me, press this. It detonates the backup generator and triggers a blackout across this district. You'll have 10 minutes to escape. My heart dropped. No, I'm not leaving without you. He shook his head violently. You have to. Bang! The door shook again. They were seconds away. Ethan whispered, Ready? I grabbed his hand. Together. He stared at me, surprised, moved. Then the lock snapped. The door began to open. Ethan pulled me behind a metal pillar, whispering, On my signal. The warehouse was deathly silent except for our ragged breathing. Ethan pressed me against the cold metal pillar, his hand tight on mine, eyes scanning the half-open door. The shadow of the intruders crept closer. On my signal, he whispered. I nodded, heart pounding. Every fiber of my being screamed fear, but I trusted him. The same man I had married, yet completely unrecognizable now. Then the first footstep entered the warehouse. A figure appeared in the doorway, tall, commanding, with a black mask obscuring his face. 2 others followed, circling silently. Ethan's hand tightened around the remote. Stay calm, he murmured. The lead figure stopped abruptly, as if sensing something. Then a voice cut through the tension. Ethan Carter. You can't run forever. The voice was familiar. Too familiar. My blood ran cold. Lucas? Ethan whispered under his breath. The intruder's mask fell back. Lucas, Ethan's former partner, the one who had orchestrated Daniel's downfall, stepped forward. His expression was a twisted mix of rage and disbelief. "I never expected to see you hiding behind a woman," Lucas sneered. "Didn't think she'd be useful to you, did you?" I felt a chill. Ethan stepped in front of me, shielding me from Lucas's fury. "It's over, Lucas, you've lost." Lucas laughed, dark and menacing. "Lost? You think you're the same man you were 3 years ago? You've been hiding from us, stealing from us, manipulating everyone. And now your wife? She's in the middle of it." Clever, I finally understood. Ethan hadn't just lied. He had been living a double life. A life full of danger, manipulation, and betrayal. "Sarah," Ethan whispered, "there's something you need to know. Not everything I've done was to hurt you. Most of it was to protect you from them." I felt the weight of his words, but the fear inside me was suffocating. Protect me? By hiding the truth from me? Ethan hesitated, swallowing hard. "Yes, because if you knew everything, you would have left. And they would have taken you anyway." Lucas raised his gun, stepping closer. "Enough talk, time's up." Ethan glanced at me, then pressed a button on the remote. Suddenly alarms blared, and lights flickered across the warehouse. Smoke filled the air. "Go!" Ethan shouted. I grabbed his hand and we ran toward the emergency exit. The chaos of sirens, smoke, and flashing lights gave us the perfect cover. We sprinted into the night, adrenaline fueling every step. Lucas and his team shouted behind us, but the blackout gave us a critical head start. We reached a narrow alley, gasping for breath. Ethan's eyes glinted with determination. "They won't stop," he said. "We need to end this now." I saw the resolve in him. The man who once whispered love in my ear was now ready to face death for our survival. He pulled out a small package from his jacket. Documents, USB drives, and photos, all evidence exposing Lucas and Meridian's corruption. "This is the truth," he said. "With this, no one can touch us anymore." Lucas's voice echoed behind us. "You can't escape." Ethan took a deep breath, then turned to me. "Sarah, are you ready?" I nodded, gripping his hand tighter than ever. We burst onto the street where authorities, alerted by Daniel earlier, were waiting. Lights flashed, sirens blared. Lucas froze. Ethan stepped forward, holding the USB and documents. "These are your crimes," he shouted. "Every illegal transaction, every threat, every plan you made, documented and reported. You have nowhere to run." Lucas hesitated, rage and fear contorting his face. Within seconds, backup swarmed, arresting Lucas and his team. The nightmare that had haunted Ethan and everyone connected to him for years was finally ending. I stood there shaking, tears streaming down my face. Ethan turned to me, his hands cupping my face. "It's over," he whispered. Days later, we were safe in a secluded location, far from Meridian Tech and Lucas's reach. Daniel joined us, exhausted but relieved. "I didn't think you'd survive tonight," he admitted. I looked at Ethan. The man I had married, flawed, human, capable of deception, but brave enough to fight for the people he loved. "We survived because of him," Daniel said, nodding at Ethan. Ethan took my hand, smiling softly. "We're not out of the woods yet," he admitted. "But we're together, and that's what matters." I nodded, finally understanding the truth. Love can exist even in chaos, even when trust is broken, and even when secrets threaten to destroy everything. We had faced the darkness and come out stronger. That night, after the adrenaline faded, Ethan finally confessed everything in full detail. Not just the lies, the secret missions, and the hidden truths, but also the sacrifices he had made to protect me and our family. The man I thought I knew had been living a life of danger and deceit, not for greed, but for love and survival. And in that moment I realized something crucial. Truth can be terrifying, but it can also save you, because now nothing could break us.